Hello everyone, my name is Rokas and I'm the Dojo of Dojo, or previously known as Aikido Shule. I've been practicing Aikido for a bit more than 12 years, and 3 of them I spent as Uchideshi with Patrick Cassidy Sensei. And for the last 4.5 years I'm running this dojo that you see before you. And obviously there's a lot of people who have more experience, but at the same time, each one of us are passionate about different things, and my own passion is to aid everyone in their journey of Aikido, to understand it in, as deeply as they can, not to limit it on the level of a surface. And that also comes to helping beginners and making really sure that beginners are welcomed and that they really understand why we do these techniques, why we do these movements, and how to do it best. Because that's the way our mind works. If you experience a lot of challenges, challenges are good to make you develop, but if you experience them too much and you start to feel like you're a failure, you just can't learn it, whatever you're inspired about, and eventually you might stop, and that takes away from discovering a beautiful path which is ahead of you, and right now we're talking about Aikido. And in Aikido that happens a lot because Aikido is quite complex. It has a lot of difficult movements, difficult theories, traditions. So a beginner oftentimes can feel overwhelmed, and too many people just drop out before they actually experience how it works. So what I want to give in this video is not a challenge, but rather a feeling of success, that you won't be able to learn all the techniques just by watching this video. That's ridiculous and that's never going to happen. You know, this is not Matrix. But there's certain points, certain moments which is not always easy to get, which your instructor might not always point out for you, sometimes because they're not aware of it, sometimes just because they don't have enough time, so for many various reasons. But these points might really make a big difference in your learning. When you know them, learning becomes just so much easier. And these are just small points which are easy to grasp. So we're going to look in this whole video into a lot of different topics about the wooden sword, the bokken, the jo, the rolling, the ukemi, techniques, attacks. We're going to look through all of the basic Aikido things to give you an insight of how it feels, what it means, how it works, so that when you go back to the dojo, you won't be able to do everything, but you will be just so much more ready to accept the challenge and to succeed in it. So without further ado, let's start our journey. So we're going to look at something very basic, but something very important in Aikido, and that's some of the traditions. So right now, what I'm already presenting is called Seiza. That's a traditional Japanese way of sitting. When you try to figure out how to sit, normally there's about 2 fists distance between the knees. There's also when you just generally sit, the toes are open, they're not bent. You can go up on your toes, but that's more when you start walking, what's called shiho, or when you do techniques, or where you're preparing for standing up. But when you're just generally sitting, it's just Seiza like this. Now, one reason we're sitting like that, it's because it's a traditional Japanese formal way of sitting, and it was a big part of the Japanese culture and still is. And since Aikido is a Japanese martial art, we overtook that. In a practical sense, it's good for your flexibility, it's good for your legs, for the development of the flexibility in the legs. And also it's practical because it's easy to stand up from here. In any other different way, when you sit, it might be troublesome to stand up, while here, you just go up on your toes, put one leg out, and you're already standing. And at the same time, you can sit down quickly. So if you would have a sword, you can stand up and cut at the same time. You're ready to defend yourself, which obviously was a very important part of the Japanese culture, since it was so much warrior and warfare based with the samurai. And there's some practicability right now in terms of standing up in these days too. At the same time, normally a lot of us are not really flexible in the legs. This is hard for Westerners to sit like that, and it might take time to develop for the flexibility in the legs. So if somebody else is sitting there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour like this and it doesn't seem troublesome for them, it's because they had more training, because they became more flexible through time, and you will become too. But if in the beginning there's a lot of tension in your knees, it's very painful, what we consider to be true and good in our dojo is you don't have to always sit like that. Just you can start with it, just allow yourself to sit like this for a bit to develop the flexibility, but then you can switch, and most of the times what's suggested is that you can sit, for example, cross-legged or one leg bent above the other. Most important though is that you don't push out the feet forward. In the Asian culture, and including the Japanese culture, pushing out the feet forward is considered a very rude sign, because the feet are considered the dirtiest part of the body, and if you present it to someone else, it's a big sign of disrespect. So try to never turn out the feet towards your instructor or other Aikidoka, and same applies to the showman, which we're going to speak about soon too. Do not turn your legs out to the showman, since it's a sacred, considered to be a sacred place. But whether you're sitting Seiza or cross-legged, in most of the dojos, it should be fine. Just when you want to bow, it's probably best to sit in Seiza, and when you bow, you place both hands facing to each other. There's a bit of a gap between the palm and the ground. You place it together, and you bend, and depends how deeply you bend, it depends on how much respect you want to show. But most of the times you will bow quite deeply, sometimes even all the way to the ground, especially when you're bowing to the showman and starting the training. But we'll look at bows more specifically later too. So just to start with, this is Seiza, and you can become better in it with time. Probably it's going to be hard in the beginning, but don't worry, you're going to get there.